Hello and welcome to the Youth Care Podcast brought to you by Copper Rose Zambia with support from Hivos through the SIDA funding. Now, my name is Priscilla Cholo Muzamba and I'm joined by my co-host who I'm not going to introduce because last time I introduced you, sir. You were offended.
No difference has been made so far. You could have just introduced me. But anyway, I welcome you as Harrison. And of course, like Priscilla mentioned, I'm her co-host. Yeah, I don't know who is the host between me and Priscilla, but initially I'm Harrison Mbewe together with Priscilla on this podcast. And now today we are discussing something that is not talked about and something that has been looked upon, especially by the society. It's a taboo actually to talk about this. And of course, our today's topic is entitled Breaking the Cycle. Of course, we are talking about menstrual hygiene. Let's talk about why it matters. And on this podcast, we are not going to actually highlight it alone. We are going to need help, especially from experts that are actually in this industry. Priscilla, do the honors.
Drum roll, please. We are joined by none other than Dr. Nachizia, who I'm also going to allow to introduce herself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. I am Dr. Nachizia Edith Namukanga. I am a lecturer in public health and I have a passion for the adolescent girl, specifically looking at menstrual hygiene management, menstrual health, and basically anything menstruation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I just remembered something. You know, growing up, we used to, when you watch something obscene on TV with your parents, there may be a Telemundo type of, we would always feel shy and try to hide our faces so that the parents don't see. But then I just realized when you talk about issues to do with menstruation, people feel uncomfortable. I'm sure even as some of you are watching this right now, others are like, you know what, this is not the episode for me. Let me quickly move to the next episode. But then this is what we want to understand, Dr. Nachizia. Why is menstruation a difficult topic to discuss?
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. And I love that you started with that question because indeed, menstruation is a topic that many of us have shadowed to being this very taboo, cannot talk about it, cannot, bring it up in front of, males, cannot bring it up in front of your father, some even your mother.
Yeah.
So I think culturally, from way back when, maybe we were not so enlightened or did not really understand what was going on, we had these rules, we had these myths, these misconceptions around it that just made us feel like we need to be silenced about it. We need to be more, careful who we talk to about these things. I remember instances where you hear about stories about the first, we call it menak, the first period. And this girl would say, just upon seeing the blood, my fear, coupled with my mom literally shouting at me for running to her saying, I've got blood all over me. And already that puts you in a position where you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to talk about this.
Exactly.
Your mom is telling you you're not supposed to tell anyone about it. You're not supposed to show that you're even menstruating. So the whole experience is just silence.
Yeah.
So the whole 5 days, 7 days, however long one is menstruating, it's just basically coupled with silence.
So, just to also help us understand, we've actually grown up in those communities where I think we've actually been shadowed by what has been there in existence already. Let's take, for instance, there are some messages that actually to date, I'm still not comfortable talking about them. You understand, due to the traditional aspect and all sorts of stuff. So, as young people, especially starting with us, how do we actually shape ourselves in terms of overcoming those messages, despite the elderly people telling us to say we have to abide to those messages?
Yeah. So I think without having to put aside our culture, without having to put aside the teachings, which are very important.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that we as young people and the generation to come need to do is understand really why were we taught this. I know when we are young and, already like we've said, this is a topic that is already covered with a lot of like silence and, a lot of keep quiet and hush hush.
Yep.
When they're explaining to us, oh, don't put salt in food.
Yeah.
Because it's coupled with silence, they won't go on to explain why. Okay? So they'll just come to you and they will say, hey, when you're menstruating, don't put salt in food, don't touch this, don't do this, don't cook, don't what. There's a lot of don'ts, but never a reason why.
Yep.
Why? Because of the silence. Because even the adults are silenced. They've grown up to be silent. They have this girl child who's now menstruating. They have to continue with the silence somehow. But if we took a step further to understand why exactly is this woman telling me not to add salt to my food? Like how does that, how does that and menstruation, what does it have to do with anything? And usually they'll just say, no, we're going to get sick. We're going to have, coughs.
Yeah.
And it ends there. But if you take a step further and you ask the very important questions, you try to dig deeper and you try to kind of just understand where all that is coming from, you realize that probably it was only because they wanted to find an easy way of knowing that, oh, my child, my daughter, has started her peas.
Yeah.
So when I eat this food and I don't taste the salt, it means that she's menstruating.
Yeah.
Why? Because as a mother, I can't just go up to my daughter and ask her, day one, have you started? Have you started?
Oh,
Have you started?
They were
Right?
clever, yeah?
Exactly.
Right.
So with us, we just grow up saying, I was told not to add salt. But you're forgetting that what could have been the reason?
Yeah.
And if you dig deeper, they'll just tell you, no, actually, it's just a way of like, it's an indication. It's like how we have the period apps now where you can just, just track it on your app. So that's the way of tracking that I think our, mothers, grandmothers used to do it. Yeah.
Very smart.
So there's no cough, right?
Well.
I'm glad with how you responded with, the both of you.
Well, there are some, so like what I keep saying, let us not do away with tradition. There are some who believe that the cough, and they've actually witnessed it.
So it's the belief, not actually there's cough.
Well, that's the thing with belief.
Yeah.
I feel like once you believe that something is it, it's going to be it.
Definitely.
Once you believe that if I wear a chitenge, like a wrapper of someone who's experiencing pain, then I'll also experience that pain. Like there's that belief that goes around in communities. And indeed, there's some who actually say, ever since I started wearing this girl's wrapper, I've also started feeling pain. I never used to feel pain. So I think most things in life are with the mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. But then now that reminds me of a time when I just started. And it's funny that I'm speaking about this like openly now, because trying to talk about when you started your piece in front of Harrison, in front of it's quite. But so I remember when I first started, I didn't know how to go to mom and say I've started.
Yeah.
So I even went to school. So went to school, no pad, no nothing. Dad dropped me off at school. Of course, I was a bit low, and then we got to school. I spent the whole day not knowing who to talk to, who to tell, where to go. Maybe at school, is there somewhere a teacher I could talk to? And I came back home. So I spent a whole day not knowing what then would happen.
Yeah.
And came back home. But then it reminded me of, for example, at school, or just girls in general, what are some of the challenges that you think that we face, or that you have seen, or that you've experienced yourself that we face, both home and even in school or wherever we go, in terms of menstrual hygiene? Because in that case, I can imagine maybe we should have had someone within the school set up to kind of help me.
Exactly.
That I could feel free to talk to.
Yeah.
But for me, that was a challenge because I didn't think anyone could help me out. So apart from that, what are some of the challenges that you've noticed that girls face when it comes to that?
I think overall, recently, past few years, we've seen a rise in menstrual health education. We've seen more people talking about it in the school settings. We've seen even like clubs being set up in the school settings. But then we still find that there are some girls that are still not well informed. We still find that there are some girls that are still, missing some certain level of guidance. Why I say so is because we have girls who start from as low as 10 years and others who start later, maybe 15, 16. So because of that difference in dynamic, the 10-year-old might not understand what maybe the 15-year-old would have understood by the time they're that age, because they've seen their friends get it, they've seen their sisters get it. So it's like, oh, now it's my turn. So in a situation like your case, it would have just been like, oh, it's now my turn. Hey, can you give me a pad? You probably already know how to use it. You've probably seen someone use it. But in the case of a 10-year-old, I said when I was 10, I had not, and I'm an only girl, I had not seen what a pad looks like. I had not even known what a pad was. And according to my mom, I was still too young for her to have that conversation with me. But I started. So how do you now transition this young mind to now understanding, these things? With us girls, I think that one of the other challenges we have, aside the education and the knowledge about it, is these cultural teachings have, like I said, they've always been from the don't side of things.
Okay.
They haven't really been about how do you take care of yourself. Because to be honest with you, how you take care of yourself during menstruation should just be your way of life, even if you're not menstruating at that point. You keep clean, you ensure that your undies are clean, you ensure that you are washing your hands. These are just like health tips that during menstruation, maybe you just have to enhance a little bit, but it's your way of life. So I believe as parents, as your sisters, as brothers, the moment you have a young child, a young girl in your house, and you start to notice that, she's slowly starting to evolve, trying to hit puberty. These are conversations you need to start to have. Oh, there's this. This is how your body works. This is how, things will start to change. And at some point, you're going to notice this. Once you do notice this, the first thing you should do is maybe seek counsel from an older person, an older girl who's around. It can be your neighbor, someone who you trust, and you feel like you can open up to them, tell them about it, and let them help you. But why? Because we are silent about it. We don't want to talk about it. We leave it to just chance. Whenever, however, my child is going to start their period, if they're going to be at home, they're going to be at school, it's like they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And sometimes they do figure it out, but then they get the wrong information.
The hard way.
And the first-hand information is always important. My mom told me, so this that you've started, don't let a boy touch you or else you get pregnant. I'm 10. And she tells me, don't let a boy touch you or else you get pregnant. Fine, good. I go to school, I'm playing katach.
Oh no.
I'm running, minding my business. Boom, I'm touched. Oh hell.
You're pregnant.
I am pregnant. I got home and I'm like sulky. What's wrong? Are you okay? Mom, I am pregnant.
What was her reaction?
I think she knew that she messed up in the advice, because she was just like, why would you think that? A boy touched me. Where? And I'm sobbing now. Here. I ran. Another one touched me. Yeah. So I think the information that you get, the first-hand information that you get, is very important because it sets the tone. It sets the tone. So I feel like we, as I think we're now older, or the older generation, the young older generation of now, we need to be very deliberate on what advice we're giving these young people. Yes, we want to safeguard them. Yes, we want to help them, but we need to be very, very deliberate on what exactly are we saying. Because the don'ts are too many, to be honest with you. They don't do this, don't touch this, don't do this. There are so many. And no one is really thinking about hey, come here. Let me tell you what to do. Let me tell you how to manage it.
Definitely. With a new implementation, I'm glad that the Ministry of Education has actually taken a step in actually training these teachers who are called, what are they called again? The guidance teachers?
Yes.
Yeah, about
Oh,
menstrual
guidance and counseling.
hygiene and everything and stuff like that. So how does a safe, let me put it in this way, a safe menstrual hygiene looks like? Especially mentioning that you are supposed to have proper guidance. Aside from that, how does it look like?
In a school setting?
I think, let me just place it overall. I used school because this is a place where
they are trained
yes,
to, yeah.
and people would actually be in school from 8 hours up
Majority
to
of the
16
time.
hours.
Yeah. For me, a safe way or a safe menstrual hygiene management procedure would have proper products. So we are looking at approved product use. So these are from pads to cups, tampons, reusable pads. And I say proper because these things have been designed for menstruation.
Yeah.
I'm always one that advocates for, affordable and smart ways of, managing menstruation. But I also believe a diaper is a diaper for a baby.
Yeah.
I also believe cotton wool is meant for something else.
Yeah.
I also believe a chitenge is meant for something else.
Yeah.
But we do find, because of our economic, status and how affordable certain things are, we still find ourselves rushing to those things because I think a diaper can be like 5 kwacha. If you buy one, you can use it 3 times. Cutting and everything, or twice. So they go for that. But I still believe, one, the product use is very important because it makes you feel safe, confident. And I think those are some of the things that come with menstruation.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it later, but menstruation also has a lot to do with your mental health. So if you're not feeling confident to stand up and walk to the board, if you're in class, write something on the board and come back and sit because you're afraid that your diaper will move or the chitenge you've put there has moved upwards, then you will not be confident and it's going to mess with your entire day.
Exactly.
Another thing is the wash facilities. It's not enough to just say, okay, we have toilets, we have running water. Where are the girls going to dispose of their products? So when a girl goes to change her pad, do we have a mechanism in place that she feels confident and comfortable that if I throw this in here, no one will just come and pick it up and, put it anywhere.
Yeah.
Again, we should also be thinking, this is like, for example, I'm talking about a school setting. This is a space where you have different characters.
Yeah.
They are bullies. They're the people from so many different backgrounds.
Yeah.
If they see me walk into the toilet maybe 3-4 times just before break time, they'll know that there's something happening to this person. But do we have mechanisms that safeguard from such? Aside, the pads, aside the wash facility, there's also, like you said it yourself, the education around it. Are we free to talk about these things? Because aside just the blood, there's so many other things that we are going through as well during that process. There's the mental issues, there's the pain, there's the withdrawal from, social activities. So all those things kind of, if you place proper education, proper knowledge around these things, a proper space also to talk about them and manage it. By management, you're not just talking about use of pad, but you're also talking about how do we manage the pain that it comes with. Then I think you would have achieved kind of, something that is more manageable for the adolescent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that you actually brought up the issue of, pain, mental health. Harrison.
You can
and all the men who are listening to us right now. We usually go through, it's different from girl to girl, woman to woman, but we experience some sort of pain when we're going through our menstrual cycle at some point. But it's like it's something that the male folk don't want to understand sometimes.
Really?
If you say you're sick or maybe even want to take a day off from work because of cramps, they'll look at you and say, what? Because of menstruation, you want to take a day off? But then this then brings me to, okay, so what are some coping mechanisms that can be implemented, apart from just trying to make the other gender understand, but also just for ourselves as women? What are some of the coping mechanisms that we can adopt or that can be put in place just to help us when it comes to that pain? And maybe you can also just couple it with how it's connected to mental health, because I'll tell you for me, once I'm under, like, going through that pain, you won't want to talk to me, you know, and you think I'm moody, you think I'm rude, you think I'm mean, but
it's good I've known. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to some of the coping mechanisms, I like that you've brought that up, because I recently did a study where I was looking at, so it's called dysmenorrhea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The pain is called
Dysmenorrhea.
dysmenorrhea. And I was trying to understand what was the prevalence, so how many girls are actually experiencing severe, mild, moderate dysmenorrhea. And then I wanted to also understand what are their experiences, how are they coping with it. And a lot that came out were non-medicated, like non-over-the-counter medications. So you find a lot of them are talking about drinking warm, water, teas. And a lot of them are also talking about hot presses, so like maybe a hot water bottle. Then the ones from, maybe certain other peri-urban to rural areas will talk about use of traditional herbs. So you have the tembushas, you have the certain roots that they use. Some even go as far as traditional healers, because the pain is severe. The pain is severe. And so because our health system has also not recognized this pain as something that could be, I can use the word maybe hazardous, or something that can be very bad. It's like you go into the hospital. One girl was narrating, she goes to the clinic. Oh, I'm in pain. Oh, what's wrong? I'm menstruating. Okay.
And then what?
Take a Panadol. Like, you're wasting our time. It's like it's a normal pain. Like, it's normal. So it's passed off like it's normal. Like, you should be strong. You have mothers who are telling their girls, say, be strong. You're a woman. That's what it means to be a woman. So even the pain is coupled with a lot of mental issues, because you're in so much pain. You can't talk about it. You're being told it's part of being a woman. Frustrated.
Is it possible that you can adapt to the pain?
Can you adapt? Okay, the thing is with this pain, it's not continuous.
Okay. So
it's
there's
not
nothing
continuous.
like I'm going to
can you
be
adapt
okay.
to a flu or a sore throat? Because you don't have it every day of the year. You have it some just once in a month, like one day in the month. The day they start their period is the day they're in pain. Then that's it. So it comes, it goes. You're anticipating the next one because you know it's coming. Mentally, you're already in your head is in in that mood of like, oh my God, this is about to start. So there's a lot of mental issues that go around it, and when you look at even the quality of life, it's very poor, because there's just so much that goes against what you can be or your potential at that particular point. But I always say periods don't pose potential. They don't.
Okay. And just before we get to wind up, I feel like this topic is quite broad. And the time we have really doesn't do it justice. But just even as you conclude, even as you wind down, first of all, what role do you think men and boys have to play when it comes to issues to do with menstrual hygiene management? And also, what are some of your last words or your final remarks to the young person out there listening to you right now?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. And thank you for bringing the men and the boys into the conversation.
We need to.
They are very important. We live in a society where majority of our financial, a burden lies with the man. So if the man does not understand that my daughter, my sister, my wife needs pads, he will not put it on the budget. He will think the extra 20 kwacha you're asking for is a bit too much of an ask. And at the end of the day, you end up using, other materials that might not be comfortable for you. So already he needs to know, he needs to be part of the conversation. So he understands to say, every month, this woman needs this. So I'm challenging you men. This is what today is the 17th. The month hasn't ended. So definitely between the 17th and the 28th, there'll be someone who's going to menstruate.
Yeah.
Whether they do or don't, they'll use it next. Just buy them a pad. You lose nothing.
Add a chocolate.
Yeah, exactly, to calm the nerves.
Does it work?
I mean, yes.
Is it a catalyst, in fact?
Well, our mental health is everywhere, so a chocolate would just make us realize that I'm loved, I'm cared for, someone cares. But I think my last words would be, like I said, periods don't pose potential. No matter what situation we find ourselves in, when we menstruate, it doesn't mean that we are lesser than. It doesn't mean that we are not able to. It just means that at that particular moment, for those 3, 4, 5, 7 days, our hormones are acting up a little. And we might need to rest. And it's okay to rest. It's okay to put a pause.
Doc, before actually I get to close the show, I can see the directors are on our neck, just like Priscilla mentioned last time. But anyway, if you were a president for a day, what would you change in the system of menstrual hygiene?
Okay.
Pads would be free.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Clap for her, Priscilla. Thank you so much for finding time being here, and we appreciate, especially with you emphasizing on men looking at me. I'll be able to record to say she was looking at me when she was saying that. But a lot of people have heard, and of course the men in the room have heard, or every man who is actually watching this, you have heard. Put a budget for her. Don't add the chocolate. But anyway, you can add the chocolate. There are 5 kwacha chocolates in town. You can actually get them and then you can give them. It makes a difference, isn't it, Priscilla?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Vijava 5 kwacha vikulu today.
Let me not say too much.
All right. Thank you for staying with us. This has been the Youth Care Podcast, brought to you by Copper Rose Zambia with support from Hivos through the SIDA funding. I've been your host, your co-host, Fion Sefia Shala Kufiwika Pamo, na Priscilla, the host bandi, with our guest in the studio, the doc. It's a bye-bye. Till next time, blessed year ahead.